How important are the financials in keeping accurate records, not just for
Yeah.
loans, but throughout the business?
Oh, you need them in order to be able to make sure that everything's running like it needs to be. That's the financials is kind of the lifeline of the business.
Welcome to Small Biz Connect, where we talk all things small biz. I'm Amy Reid, the host for the Texas Gulf Coast Network, SBDC. We are federally funded through the Small Business Administration as well as the state of Texas. So today we have Richard Wood and Jennifer Finney with the Brazosport SBDC. So Jennifer, I'm just going to start with you. Tell our listeners a little bit about the SBDC here in Brazosport.
So the Brazosport College SBDC is located on the campus of Brazosport College in Lake Jackson, Texas. We serve a majority of the southern Brazoria County, so all the way from Lake Jackson up to Manville, and then from Lake Jackson towards both county lines, so all the way out to Alvin and then down to Matagorda. So that is our service area. And we help small businesses, obviously, that want to grow or start a business or exit or buy a business.
And how big's your staff?
There's 2 full-time advisors, including myself, and then a program manager. So we have three staff, and we occupy the office in this corporate learning center, which is right at the back of the college, behind the Clarion, if you're familiar with the area. But
easy access,
yeah.
Great signage.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Great
what
signage.
I would say.
Yes, thank you.
So Richard, I would turn to you now. So you're going to tell us a little bit about why you opened up Wurst Haus, German Deli. When you came up with the idea, what did that look like?
Well, it actually started out of a necessity. I had been in the home medical business for about 14 years, and my job outlook was the future wasn't looking so bright. Down the road, the company had sold, and I needed to figure out another way of making a living. And I didn't want to leave the area because I'm from this area. My kids and I'm a third generation Lake Jacksonian, I guess.
Okay.
And didn't want to leave the area, so the kind of business that I was in, I had moved into sales, and I needed a widget, and I was looking for something that I could do to kind of keep me here locally, as well as make a difference in the community, if you will. And at the time, I'd worked for Wurst House. It was my first job, actually. When I was 15 years old, I worked there all through high school. And so the Wurst House had been closed and was no longer there.
Oh.
And so I kind of got to thinking, the community really enjoyed having that as a staple in the area. And I thought I could redo that. And my wife and I, we spent a whole year, all of our free time. And now this was before cell phones, and
was there a time before cell phones?
Google was not quite, the predominant search engine. But we spent the whole year putting together operation manuals, training manuals, job descriptions, basically planning and coming up with a solution and a procedure for everything that would be required. And I kind of learned that background from working in the home medical business. And so I kind of had a little different take moving into opening a restaurant. Most restaurateurs are more kitchen and oriented, where I was more business oriented, but I had a bit of a kitchen background from working there. So that's kind of what got me into it. Was I needed a job, and I had worked for other people before, and I felt like it was time for me to be in charge of my own destiny.
I would say that's pretty common, that we hear a lot of people, they're like, I just want to transition, or I need a job, and that sort of thing. So 2004, what has changed if we were to look back 2004 from then to now?
Well, when we put the restaurant together, all I knew was working at the original Wurst House. And so originally it looked as close as I could duplicate 1980, which is kind of bad looking back on it whenever you're opening up in 2005. And, but we were very embraced by the community. And it only took us about 90 days to realize that if we didn't make some quick changes to this thing, we were not going to be around much longer. And so, yeah, that's kind of why the Wurst House looks the way it does now, is because the first version of it got modified with us expanding the menu. We had the original menu. We only took 2 things off the menu, and that's only because they were really very labor intensive, and it didn't make sense if you're trying to somewhat simplify your operations. So, but the original menu is what we started with, and actually, we haven't done away with any of that original menu. It's still there. But what we did was we added chicken to the menu. We added salads to the menu. We added a hamburger.
Diversified.
And we had to diversify. And, a lot of people have their memories of the old Wurst House, and they're like, I wish it was the same menu as it was back then. But the thing is I guess it's such a blend of, I guess I kind of call it German-American cuisine because, we cater to both.
So you talked about those first 90 days. You figured out that you're going to have to make some real changes to survive. And a lot of people, when we talk to them, they're kind of in that startup survival mode. When did you figure out that you were no longer in that mode and you'd figured it out and now you just needed to stay on top?
Yeah, I guess that was probably about year 8. We had to go back and get some more operating capital within that first 12 months. And I learned a lot about how hard it was to get funded when you don't have an establishment. But I did not realize it was like a light switch whenever you actually have brick and mortar in operation. All I had to, I guess I was overthinking it. I thought I was done for because I had stretched all of my resources just to get myself open. And then now to find myself a little bit undercapitalized, that was quite a blow. But my bankers and, they're like my partners. And I communicated with what my needs were and what my problems were. And they found solutions that I had no idea was available because all they really wanted to see was my sales reports to see what we were generating in revenue. We already had, obviously, P&L or projections going forward, but they're just that. They're just projections. So you don't really know what it's going to be until the rubber hits the road. Well, when the rubber hit the road, we found out real quick we needed some more cash.
Right.
So the bank came through, and so now we have 2 operating loans. And so that got us through.
Well, I think that leads us over to, you don't just have one business, you have 2. So you have the Growler Poorhouse as well.
Yes.
So where did that come from? Why did you think it was time to have more on your plate?
Sure. Yeah, good question. Whenever I found my location was it was kind of an interesting situation because the place I was looking at was right across the street. And the landlord or the owner of the building over there, he found out that I wanted to open a restaurant, and he was not interested in leasing to me. And I was dumbfounded that somebody would turn down a tenant that had a viable business plan and wanted to open up and pay him money. So I was standing on the sidewalk out there dumbfounded, and I'm looking across the street staring at a boarded up building, which happens to be on the corner of this way and that way. And for the most part, that whole block was pretty much boarded up. There was a church kind of operating out of the middle section, but other than that, the whole block was boarded up. So I moved into there, and that's where we opened up Wurst House. Well, one thing that I didn't factor in, and you can never, predict all of the possibilities of things that could could come up and stumble you. But I never factored in that other people would be paying attention to what I was doing, and then they would be opening up shop and competing with me. And so for me to watch a competitor open up down the street, and then another competitor open up, and then another one, and the next thing I know, I have 6 people competing with me. And
It's the spot to go, though, at that point.
yes. And so I got to thinking, well, if I don't, what's stopping me from opening up and competing with myself?
Mhm.
So I figured I may as well diversify and make myself more scalable, if you will.
Right.
Create more offerings.
Mhm.
But we already have our operations and our systems in place. And all I'm going to do is change the name and change the menu a bit
Mhm.
and redecorate and decor. It was really the one of the best moves that I ever made, was because I already knew what it took to get open originally and operational. And in my mind, I was like, we did it so bootstrap, and we were pulling boards out of the dumpster to make it work because we didn't have the money to go buy wood and so forth.
Right.
But yeah, to open up Growlers Poorhouse, we did it on a shoestring, and we did it just like that.
Mhm.
My staff that I had was excited and was willing to take on the challenges that of expanding and growing.
Love that.
And my management my management's been with me since I started Wurst House. But yeah, Growlers Poorhouse was kind of built out of necessity of fending off competition. But at the same time, it really diversified things for us.
So I heard you say you already had your operations and your systems in place. So a lot of our listeners are small business owners, and systems are a big thing. What kind of systems do you have in place to manage 2 locations?
Well, being around 20 years, our operations manuals and our training manuals and um, our checklists, all of those things were all out of notebooks. They existed on a computer, but it was kind of cumbersome to have to carry a notebook around and reach into things like that. To the way technology is now, we have, as technology has improved and developed, we've embraced that and we brought that into our fold. And so, where we used to have to do schedules on a spreadsheet and post them, it's all being sent out in an app, and our management communicates with shift notes and so forth through the app. And so the technology has really simplified the way we do things and really made it able for us to do more and focus on the areas that need to be focused on, because we're not being bogged down with the day-to-day things that should just be taking place. Technology solves that problem for us.
So when you are looking at technology, is that something that you look at, or is that something that you have a management team and you all discuss different technology options? I know, like, there's Toast and there's so many different apps and systems out there.
Sure. No, I'm the one that is in charge of that. And you're right, there are a lot of software companies out there and POS companies, and I was just looking at I just got back from the Texas restaurant food show in San Antonio a few weeks ago, and it was interesting walking around that show floor, because I've been to it before and quite a few food shows over the years. But walking that floor from the experience that I have, and seeing the people approaching me trying to sell me POS systems and so forth. And I'm like, over the past 20 years, I've spent over $100,000 on point of sale systems.
Wow.
And I found a company where I no longer have to purchase my equipment. I lease my equipment. It's kind of like, it makes sense too, because, just like a cell phone or an iPhone, eventually that thing has to be updated,
Right.
and the hardware can't support the software, and you have to go buy a new one. Well, if you never own your equipment, the company, you're just kind of leasing it, if you will,
Right.
and it's a minimal amount. But the software, as new things are getting developed and getting pushed, that's getting pushed to my computer. So my POS is being updated as often as the company that I work with updates. And so as times change, my system is keeping up. And if a device breaks or becomes outdated, we just ship it back and they ship me a new one. So that's been kind of a blessing seeing that, because I will never buy another point of sale system ever again. I mean, you know how hard it is to throw that in the dumpster?
It's a good tip for our listeners.
Whenever you have to get rid of it. I mean, I had to like sit it on a table for like a year in the storeroom and just kind of watch it until I finally was like, all right, I'm ready to let go of this thing.
Right.
Take it to the
It's
dumpster.
a big investment.
Yeah. And you're just burning dollars.
Right.
So
So when we talk about people, how do you've been all sides of the house in the restaurant, right? You've
Yes.
been there taking boards out of the trash can to make them stretch and all the things you've done. How do you know when to step back and let your management that you have in place take charge?
Yeah, well, that really boils down to a philosophy that I've always kind of lived by, was plan your work and then work your plan. And so I planned on working every position the first 5 years, and then training a manager, training someone, trying to pinpoint somebody that was wanting to come up in the ranks, which successfully in the first 2 years, I was able to do that. And we were able to make enough money to where we could afford to actually pay a person to be a manager.
Nice.
So we kind of grew into having managers by affordability. But when you have these processes and you plan that work out, you have to trust that process. And part of, leading is trusting your processes and being able to verify them, that the checks and balances are there. And so I feel like it's very important that I'm not there as often working things day to day, unlocking the doors. Because the first 5 years I was locking the doors and unlocking them.
Right.
But 5 to 10 years there, it was really nice being able to just kind of come and go, and just be there and kind of be the solution whenever something breaks, because it's just a matter of time until you have a flat tire or you have a air conditioner that goes out or a cooler goes out. So having more of when you're too close to something, you can't really see what's going wrong. And so I trust my staff, and I have ways to verify, and the technology makes it even easier to verify things nowadays. But stepping back, and it allows me to also identify areas in the restaurant that need to be tweaked or improved that I may not have seen because I'm so close to it.
And from an exit strategy, which we're not, you're not there yet, but exit strategy, that is one of the things when someone's looking to buy a business is they want to see that it's not owner dependent.
Sure.
And you've done a great job of setting your businesses up to not be owner dependent on a day-to-day basis. So I do want to detour. So we're going to talk a little bit. You've been with the SBDC for 22 years, a client. You've had 5 different advisors in 22 years. So what kind of value have you found from working with SBDC in the past?
Well, I can remember driving to Houston and attending classes with, I guess the instructor's name was Chris Tripoli.
Yeah,
Chris
restaurant owner.
And he had just joined up with restaurantowner.com. And basically, whenever I was just getting started, you're told you got to put a business plan together. You need to do this, you need to do that. But nobody really tells you the extent of what that's supposed to look like. So working with Chris, he really broke it down and, as to all the different aspects. And so I really got a lot of validation out of what I'd put together. So it kind of reinforced the fact that I knew I was on the right track with my planning. But what I didn't realize until I was in touch with the other associates with the SBDA was that, my business plan, was 150 pages, and and a banker can't, understand. Nobody can understand what that is. So I had to it's almost like you're running that marathon and you're like, you can see the finish line, but then somebody says, wait a second, you need to go back and do another lap. So we had,
hate it when I say
we
that.
had, it's kind of like, we had to go back to the house and pull the computer up, and we had to like cut this out and shrink that down and make this more simple and do that. So, we were just, we just overkilled everything, but we did. We managed to shrink it all down. I think we got it down to like 45 pages, which was quite a lot. It was a big ordeal. It's still pretty big. Probably in today's terms, it's probably big.
Ideally, it's about 10 pages.
Oh, well then, yeah. I think they were looking for about 30 back then, but
it has changed a lot over the years.
But that includes financials and all your numbers.
Right.
But
once the financials get included, it's usually around 30, 35.
Right.
Yeah.
So is there any advice that you'd give to someone who is maybe going to work with the SBDC, how they could prepare for that kind of meeting?
The only advice, I guess the best advice I could give is try not to be in too big of a hurry. Be realistic about your timelines, and expect to hit some roadblocks, and be ready to pivot whenever you hit that roadblock. But the resources that y'all offer are, they're invaluable, because I was very fortunate that I got pointed in the direction over here. I mean, I knew about y'all in the beginning, but I didn't quite know when I needed to actually access you. And so, yeah, once we finally met up and everything, y'all been a great partner.
Right. I'd love to hear that. So you've been through a couple small business loans as well. Is there any advice that you'd give to listeners about that process, what that looks like?
Yeah. Basically, you have to understand that all banks are not, or all funding sources are not equal. Okay. And I didn't realize that when I was in my younger days. But some banks are interested in loaning for certain reasons, and some kind of have their portfolios full. And even though they might be a good partner, they're just not able to make the loan to you right then. So I was fortunate that it only took me 2 tries in the first attempt to get open. And since then, I've had to go back for various reasons for additional funding. And the process has been pretty much the same. You need your financials, and you need to be able to understand where, what the pressure level is, if you will, of the business, because they're always looking for ability to pay back. And as long as you can show the ability to pay back, and you can show that you've got the revenue to do that, everything generally comes together pretty quickly.
I love that you said that, because that was going to be one of my questions, is how important are the financials in keeping accurate records, not just for loans, but throughout the business?
Oh, you need them in order to be able to make sure that everything's running like it needs to be. I mean, that's the financials is kind of the lifeline of the business. So.
Well, we are go ahead, Jennifer.
I was going to say, did you do the financials do you do the financials, or did you outsource that?
Well, putting the numbers, I can read the numbers really well, but putting the numbers in is not my forte. So no, my CPA advised me, or recommended an accountant, and that's local. And so I got with her, and so she inputs all my financials. And then my CPA kind of takes what work she's done, and he does his magic with everything. But again, with QuickBooks, with the technologies, back then it was like, do you go buy a program, and then you gotta,
learn how to use it.
But then the program gets outdated, and you gotta buy another program, and you gotta move it all over into the new one. Whereas whenever they came out with this QuickBooks Online, I saw all the writing on the wall there, and I was like, that's what we're doing. We're doing the online version. And I was told by some of my advisors, why do you want to do that? It's going to be an ongoing expense every month. You're never going to own it. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't think I want to own this, because it seems to be changing every other year. And Now those same people are doing are involved in my finances, and they're like, they love online version, and they see the benefit of it. But yeah, we're moving more and more into where everything is basically, online in the cloud like that. So yeah,
Streamlined.
the technology has been a very big blessing to running a business.
So here in the Gulf Coast, the Texas Gulf Coast, we get hurricanes and other disasters, and you've been through a few of those since you've been open. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about when, after a storm per se, what are some of your first priorities?
Yeah, the first priorities when a storm comes for me now is making sure that I'm reaching out to my business partners and my vendors, or I call them partners. I'm a sole proprietor, and my wife and I are the sole owners of Wurst House. So it's just us making decisions. So I really have to make sure that whenever I'm picking a vendor or a bank or a financial institute, that I'm picking a partner that is going to be there for me through the good times and through the tough times.
Right.
Well, whenever devastation strikes, getting a hold of my partners, because they're going through the exact same thing. Maybe not, physical damage, but they're having their businesses interrupted due to the storms as well. So they understand what I'm going through, and they've always been able to make adjustments, modifications, things of that sort to help assist and keep us afloat until we're able to get operational again. And that's really the first priority, is finding out how we can get operational as quick as we can. That cash flow coming in.
So speaking of cash flow, what kind of systems or processes have you put in place to ensure that you can continue to pay your employees, take care of your facilities, and that sort of thing in those disaster times?
Yeah, well, it's basically just realizing that there's going to be another storm. There's going to be another something or another that's going to disrupt business. And it took me probably 2 storms to realize that this is just something that we have to contend with. And it's interesting because my son and I were talking about this a few months before Burl came, about how we haven't had a storm in a while and this and that. And I was like, yeah, well, just get ready. Enjoy things like right now while it's calm, because it's always a calm before the storm comes. And sure enough, a few months later, Burl came, and it was like, here we go, right into. We actually had physical damage to the restaurant with Burl. We had glass breakage from the pressure.
Wow.
So that was the first time that we had actually had physical damage to the building.
Well, in 2020, we had the shutdown. So some restaurants made it and some didn't. What do you think separated the survivors from those who didn't?
I think the ability to diversify and be innovative with what you have is kind of like when you get handed lemons, you just got to figure out how to make some lemonade out of it. And we did. We looked at it. It was really a unique experience for me. I mean, as horrible as the whole thing was, I kind of got myself into this bubble, if you will, where it felt like here I am opening the restaurant all over again, because we literally, we had like 45, 48 employees. I had to make some decisions really quickly on what we were going to do. And the decisions I made was, we got to keep our key people. We ended up we were only able to keep 11 people.
Oh, wow.
And I was able to, because I had my financials in order, and I had my documentation ready, and I had been through previous storms and so forth. I knew that as soon as there was going to be some FEMA relief of some sort, that I needed to be organized and ready to access it as quickly as possible. we went through that process during Harvey, so I already knew that. And so I was spending my time online just looking and checking to see what was going to be available and when it was going to be available. And it was, honestly, I think the bank told me that I was one of the first ones to make application and actually receive funding for PPP. But again, having that relationship with my vendors allowed me to communicate with them what was taking place, what was coming, where we were at in the process, and I needed a little bit of a bridge in order to get those connections to come together. And I did the same thing with my employees, and we were able to get that PPP money, and I was able to keep my staff, and I kept them working, even though we closed down the restaurant because we're just not a viable. Our concept is not set up for a large takeout demand. So when they closed down the dining rooms, that was kind of like, well, until they opened the dining rooms up, I just kept my employees working, and they just took everything apart and cleaned and put everything back together. And they worked a 9-to-5 job, and until we were able to get the order to open back up. We got that order, and they were chomping at the bit, and it was like reopening the restaurant from the beginning again. It really felt like that, but I had like an extra bounce in my step because we already knew what we needed to be doing. And so again, there I was unlocking the doors, locking the doors every day until we got through that moment. But no, we were able to take a pause and evaluate where our strengths are and where our weaknesses are. And if people aren't going to come out to eat, well, we have an alcohol license.
Right.
They'll come out to drink. And so we already had later extended hours originally. So we just continued with the extended hours and stayed open until midnight, where our competitors were closing up, at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, as soon as they were done serving dinner. And so we had tremendous success in accommodating and generating revenue.
That's great. Well, we're very happy that you learned some lessons and you came out on top. And I want to ask, after more than 20 years, what are you most proud of?
That's a tough question, because when it wasn't until a few years back that I started pondering, the path that I've come down and so forth, and how things have changed and so forth. But I guess the fact that where we're located right there on the corner of this way and that way, I guess we're kind of viewed as like a cornerstone of downtown. And it kind of warms my heart that, we have like live music. We started doing live music whenever they did the renovations downtown. We were the first ones to start doing that. And but the Brazosport Big Band, they play on the corner there once a month. And I didn't realize it, but they told me that, their type of setup and so forth, and their style of music, they're very limited on venues that they are able to play at. And this is like one of the few places in the South Texas area that they actually have to perform. And so again, being that cornerstone, and then being able to offer, food and dining and entertainment. And I look back at some of the pictures of Lake Jackson in the beginning, where they would have street dances in front of the Lake Theater, and they have pictures of the band out there playing and so forth. And so just like kind of that nostalgia of I've created that, and this is my community. This is where I was born and raised, and my kids and grandkids live here. And that's just that's my proudest
You should be proud.
thing.
That's great. Well, one last question. How can people connect with you?
That's easy. You can always go to wursthouse.net, our website, or you can go to Facebook and hit Wurst House. You can go to Google and hit Wurst House. And you can do the same thing for Growlers Poorhouse. GrowlersPoorhouse.com, wursthouse.net. All of our information, menus, everything, how to book a reservation, how to book a private party, it's all there.
We will have it all in the comments so that everybody can connect with you too. So Richard, Jennifer, thank you for having us today. Thank you for hosting us at Brazosport College today as well. So to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Small Biz Connect, where big ideas meet small biz. Be sure to follow us on all of our platforms. Until next time.